While sharing a meal, Jaime and Tyrion talk about Jaime's gilded steel hand. Jaime confesses that he can no longer fight because his instincts fail him when using his left hand. Worried that others will discover his weakness, he listens as Tyrion advises him to train with someone trustworthy to improve his left-handed combat skills and fulfill his duty as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard to protect the king. Later, Jaime waits in a seaside courtyard for the training partner Tyrion has arranged. Bronn arrives carrying 2 practice swords. Jaime notes that he hasn't used a sparring sword since he was 9. As their training begins, Bronn employs his signature dirty tactics, easily gaining the upper hand. Through their session, he not only pushes Jaime to improve with his offhand, but also urges him to adopt a more ruthless fighting style. On the morning of Joffrey's wedding, Tyrion encounters Varys on his way to a breakfast celebration. Varys informs him that Shae has been spotted, and that Cersei has already been notified. He admits that he can no longer protect Shae, fearing the wrath of Tywin Lannister or Cersei if they discover his deception. Tyrion, aware that Shae refuses to leave King's Landing, is reminded of Tywin's threat to hang the next whore he is caught with. At the breakfast celebration, Mace Tyrell presents Joffrey with a magnificent golden chalice, featuring 7 facets to represent the major houses of the 7 kingdoms, and wishes him and Margaery a long and happy marriage. Joffrey graciously accepts the gift. Meanwhile, Cersei notices Shae and informs Tywin that she is Tyrion's whore. In response, Tywin orders Shae to be taken to the Tower of the Hand before the wedding. Tyrion overhears this, appearing troubled, but maintaining his composure. He then approaches Joffrey, and his squire Podrick Payne presents a gift, The Lives of 4 Kings, a book by Grand Maester Cath detailing the reigns of 4 rulers. Joffrey accepts it, though his gratitude seems insincere. Shortly after, a Kingsguard member presents him with a Valyrian steel sword. Tywin explains that it is one of 2 such blades in the capital, and Joffrey eagerly takes it, immediately using it to slash at Tyrion's rare book. Delighted by his new weapon, he invites suggestions for its name before deciding on Widow's Wail. After the breakfast, Shae visits Tyrion in his chambers, where he informs her that a ship is waiting to take her to Pentos, and that their friendship is over. Knowing she will stubbornly refuse to flee despite the danger, he realizes the only way to ensure her safety is to cruelly push her away. With great pain to both of them, he coldly tells her that she is just a whore and that he could never love her. Heartbroken and enraged, Shae slaps Bronn when he enters to escort her away, then storms out. Later, when Tyrion asks Bronn if she is truly gone, Bronn confirms that she boarded the ship. When Tyrion presses further, Bronn reassures him that no one was following them, and that aside from Varys, only the 2 of them know about her departure. He then advises Tyrion to drink, until he convinces himself he did the right thing. Joffrey and Margaery's wedding takes place in the Great Sept of Baelor, officiated by the High Septon, where they are wed before gods and men. During the wedding feast, King Joffrey addresses the guests about contemplating history. As part of the entertainment, a grand golden lion opens to reveal 5 dwarves portraying the 5 kings of the War of the 5 Kings: Joffrey, Renly Baratheon, Stannis Baratheon, Robb Stark, and Balon Greyjoy. They engage in a crude performance, jousting, fighting, and making lewd gestures, amusing Joffrey, Tommen, and Cersei. However, the reaction among others is far less enthusiastic. The Tyrells, Margaery, Olenna, Mace, and Loras, along with Varys, Prince Oberyn, Tywin, Tyrion, and Sansa, barely conceal their disdain. Loras storms off, angered by the mockery of his late lover Renly, while Sansa watches in sorrow as the dwarf representing Robb is slain after having his wolf's head knocked off. Delighted by the spectacle, Joffrey initially offers a purse to the champion dwarf, but then mockingly suggests that Tyrion should fight him instead. Tyrion, refusing to take the bait, wittily counters by proposing that Joffrey himself should fight, proving his bravery just as he did at the Battle of the Blackwater. With feigned concern, he warns that the champion dwarf is mad with lust, and that it would be a tragedy for the king to lose his virtue so soon before his wedding night, earning a few restrained chuckles from the guests. Furious at being publicly outwitted, Joffrey spitefully pours wine over Tyrion's head and humiliates him further by forcing him to serve as his cupbearer. Tyrion approaches Joffrey, who deliberately drops his goblet and kicks it under the table. Sansa retrieves it and hands it to Tyrion, who refills it with wine and returns it to Joffrey. The king then demands that Tyrion kneel before him, but Tyrion refuses. Before the tension escalates further, Margaery intervenes, announcing that it is time to cut the pigeon pie. Joffrey hands his goblet to Margaery, who places it near her grandmother, Olenna, at the table's edge. He then draws his new sword and slices the pie, releasing a flock of white doves. As Sansa and Tyrion attempt to slip away from the feast, Margaery serves Joffrey a piece of pie. Joffrey, still fixated on humiliating Tyrion, commands him to pour more wine. Tyrion complies and Joffrey swiftly drinks the entire goblet. Moments later, he begins to cough, struggling to speak. Clutching his throat, he stumbles, as Margaery and Olenna cry out that he is choking and in need of help. Joffrey collapses face down, convulsing and vomiting as he writhes in agony. His pain is evident as his body twists uncontrollably. Jaime and Cersei rush to his side, turning him onto his back in a desperate attempt to help. Meanwhile, Dantos Hollard quietly approaches Sansa from behind, urging her to leave with him immediately, and she obeys without hesitation. As Joffrey gasps for breath, he weakly raises a trembling hand, pointing toward Tyrion, who is examining the wine goblet. It remains unclear whether Joffrey is directly accusing Tyrion or simply reacting to the wine. His condition worsens, his eyes turn bloodshot, blood trickles from his nose, and his body falls still. Moments later, he dies. Overcome with grief, Cersei lets out a wail and in a frenzy orders the Kingsguard to seize Tyrion, accusing him of poisoning her son. On Dragonstone's beach, Melisandre conducts a public burning ceremony, setting 3 people ablaze as a sacrifice to the Lord of Light. Among them is Axel Florent, Queen Cersei Baratheon's own brother, executed for his lack of faith. Esser Davos Seaworth watches in silence, though his disdain for both the ritual and Melisandre is evident. Surprisingly, Melisandre remains quiet throughout, while Cersei takes the most satisfaction in the event. Later, Stannis and Cersei dine with Melisandre as their guest. The royal couple argue over their daughter, Princess Shireen Baratheon. Cersei sees her disfigurement as divine punishment, while Stannis angrily forbids any physical chastisement. Cersei then suggests that Melisandre speak to Shireen. Stannis doesn't object, though Melisandre appears indifferent to the idea. Nonetheless, Melisandre speaks with Shireen, who overheard her uncle's execution from her bedroom window. In a calm yet direct manner, she tells the girl that the faith of the Seven and its scriptures are false. According to Melisandre, only 2 gods exist, the Lord of Light and the Great Other, locked in an eternal struggle. When Shireen questions the faith's teachings about 7 heavens and 7 hells, Melisandre simply responds, "There is only one hell, the one we live in now." The scene follows a panting figure moving through a dark, snow-covered forest, hunting and killing a deer. As the figure makes its kill, it is revealed to be Summer, with Bran Stark warging into the direwolf. Bran's connection is abruptly broken by Meera Reed, who tells him he had been gone for hours. Frustrated, Bran protests that he was eating, but Jojen Reed reminds him that it was Summer who was eating, and that Bran cannot sustain himself through the direwolf. Jojen and Meera warn Bran that staying in warg form for too long is dangerous. Not only does it grant him the mobility he lost after his injury, but it also risks trapping him, causing him to forget his friends, family, home, and even himself. If that happens, they will lose everything. The group breaks camp and continues their journey through the forest until they come across a weirwood tree. At Bran's request, Hodor carries him to the tree, where he places his hand just below the carved face and is immediately pulled into a vision. A flood of images rushes through Bran's mind. Swarms of crows, wights both human and horse, and the fall that left him paralyzed. He sees the 3-eyed raven taking flight in a dark corridor before landing on a tree, as well as his father sharpening ice, imprisoned in the black cells, and being led to his execution. Other visions include the Red Keep abandoned and covered in snow, the shadow of a dragon passing over King's Landing, and a different weirwood tree standing atop a barren mountain. Amidst these fragmented glimpses, a deep, ominous voice instructs him, "Look for me beneath the tree, north." Snapping out of the vision, breathless but resolute, Bran simply declares, "I know where we have to go." In the forests near the Dreadfort, the stronghold of House Bolton, Ramsay Snow hunts a peasant girl for sport. He is accompanied by Miranda, Theon Greyjoy, now forced to answer to the name Reek, and a pack of vicious hunting dogs. The chase ends when the girl is caught and savagely torn apart by the hounds, leaving Reek horrified by the gruesome spectacle. Shortly after, Roose Bolton arrives at the Dreadfort with a detachment of his army, including Locke and his new wife, Valda Bolton. Ramsay welcomes his father and stepmother, privately praising Locke for maiming the Kingslayer. Roose, however, is more focused on seeing Ramsay's captive, Theon Greyjoy. Theon is brought to Roose Bolton's chambers, where Roose is both disgusted and enraged to discover that Ramsay has tortured and flayed him. As Balon Greyjoy's last surviving male heir, Theon was a valuable hostage, and Roose had planned to use him as leverage. He explains that while he has been named Warden of the North, Tywin Lannister will not assist in reclaiming the region from the Ironborn. His strategy was to trade Theon for Moat Cailin, the key fortress on the border of the North and the Riverlands, which is currently held by Greyjoy forces, preventing the Bolton army from returning home. Ramsay, however, dismisses the plan, revealing that he already sent terms to Balon, who refused. Roose is furious that Ramsay acted without his approval, but Ramsay defends his actions by demonstrating that he has completely broken Theon, now Reek, into a loyal, submissive servant who would never betray them. As Reek shaves him, Ramsay skillfully manipulates him into revealing that Bran and Rickon Stark are still alive. He then reminds his father that after Robb Stark's death, the boys are the rightful heirs to House Stark's rule over the North. With the Northern Lords furious over House Bolton and House Frye's betrayal of the Starks, they would undoubtedly rally behind Bran and Rickon if their survival became known, threatening Roose's hold on the region. Seizing the moment to torment Theon further, Ramsay gleefully recounts details of the Red Wedding, reveling in the fact that it was Roose himself who personally killed Robb. Though visibly shaken by the revelation that the man he once saw as a brother was slain by his new masters, Theon remains silent, suppressing any outward reaction. Roose orders Locke to track down and kill Bran and Rickon. Reek, now fully submissive, suggests that Jon Snow might be sheltering the boys at Castle Black or at least know where they went. Ramsay, seeing Jon as a potential threat due to his Stark blood, argues that he should be killed as well, either because Northerners might rally behind him or because he could seek revenge. However, Roose acknowledges that harming Jon would be a serious crime, as he is a sworn member of the Night's Watch and therefore legally untouchable under the laws of the Seven Kingdoms. Turning his attention to Ramsay, Roose gives him a crucial task: to take Theon and an army to Moat Cailin and reclaim it from the Greyjoys. If Ramsay succeeds, Roose will consider legitimizing him as a true Bolton, granting him official recognition as his son and heir.